Hello, it's nice to be here. I'm not as daring as Charlie and Wolfgang, so I will not do a live presentation. But still, I think I tried to come up with some slides that will point you to some interesting aspects of Semantic MediaWiki and how you should set it up in order to provide linked open data. For those who don't know me, I've started my own business this year at KMA, Knowledge Management Associates, and I've been an active member of this community for more than 15 years, I guess. Also, I'm a knowledge graph researcher at the University of Business and Economics in Vienna, and I also do a knowledge management lecture at the University of Applied Science. So at KMA, we do knowledge management consulting, training, and research, and I focus on Semantic MediaWiki and Wiki consulting. And with knowledge.wiki, this is the brand we are trying to support an open source Semantic MediaWiki stack, and also do projects for our clients and hosting. So the agenda for today, it's called Linked Open Data with Semantic MediaWiki. So I will go a little bit into some theory why this is important, what these cornerstones of the semantic web are, and how then to set this up in Semantic MediaWiki. So it's going to be, I guess, quite easy to follow. So a beginner's tutorial, I would say. But even for me, after having set up several Semantic MediaWikis over the years, I've just come across some details now. So it might be also interesting for advanced Semantic MediaWiki users. And I also would like to point out some ideas for the future, what we might want to build or implement in the next years. So the basic idea of linked open data is that the web is evolving from a web of documents where you have HTML documents basically that link to each other. Okay, that's fine. We have that. That's the internet. But we have a web of interlinked data. And this is happening. It's just not as visible because you have to know what you are doing if you want to access this web of linked data. It's not so prominently there, but it is there. It is used basically. You can see, by the way, down here, I stole the first slides from the European Open Data Portal. So if you're into open data, European Commission has a focus on supporting this. So the first few slides are taken from there. So what is linked data? It's a set of design principles for sharing machine-readable data on the web. By Tim Berners-Lee, obviously. So these design principles are: use uniform resource identifiers as names for things. Well, with MediaWiki, obviously, a MediaWiki page has a URL. So this is there, but Semantic MediaWiki does more than that. Use HTTP URLs so that people can look up those names, so that you would look up some name in your wiki. That can be done with MediaWiki, but with Semantic MediaWiki, you can also do that with properties and so on. When someone looks up an URI, provide useful information using the standards RDF and Sparkle. This is something that can be done with Semantic MediaWiki. RDF will be there just out of the box without you doing anything. Sparkle, you would need a triple store to where Semantic MediaWiki could store the data. Include links to other URIs so they can discover more things. That's also something that Semantic MediaWiki can support. What is linked open data? So the idea of opening data is there is this famous 5-star scheme also by Tim Berners-Lee that pretty much says, you know, make your stuff available online. I don't care just about the format, just make it available under an open license. And this is important, an important step we often overlook because if, for example, your wiki installation is visible by everyone, it doesn't mean that they can do everything with it. You can read it yourself, you can download it on your laptop, but you cannot reuse it unless you specify a license. So there are Creative Commons licenses. So if you want people to reuse your content, please specify a license, and MediaWiki takes care of this even. So this is a first step, that you also acknowledge that you want people to reuse your content. Make it available as structured data, for example, an Excel file instead of an image scan or a table. Well, we are not talking about the file upload here. We're talking about really the underlying data that you have in your wiki. For this reason, Semantic MediaWiki, I guess, was invented, but of course not for Excel. But even if we have an Excel download capability, we have a CSV file, comma separate values. So that would be a non-proprietary format, even better. Then the fourth star and the fifth star are more challenging usually in the open data scene. So you would use URIs to denote things so that people can point at your stuff. So we will talk about this a little bit, how this is done. MediaWiki has the nice feature of page IDs that can be used for this purpose, and Semantic MediaWiki can build on that. And then the fifth star is link your data to other data to provide context. For this also you need Semantic MediaWiki. So there's a little bit of a difference between linked data and open data, right? Open data is data that can be published and is made available under an open license. It might or might not link to other data sources. So you can have your data just being openly available. That would be open data, but not linked open data. And linked data could be data that is interlinking with other data sets, but it might not be available and under an open license. So it could even be closed. You might use, you have your own RDF, but you're not sharing it with someone else. So there's a little bit of a distinction between that. So when you want to do open data with Semantic MediaWiki, well, of course, first thing is you have to make your Semantic MediaWiki or your MediaWiki instance readable by everyone. Editing can still be restricted, of course. That's a very common use case, that a set of maybe experts are working on the content, but everyone is free to read it and use it. Includes this open license. I mentioned these Creative Commons licenses. They are internationally well known. You can see more details on MediaWiki.org how to do that. For example, you can put this rights icon here, and then on the toolbar on the bottom, on the footer on the bottom, it will display this CC BY icon, so people know that they can use this content. By the way, yeah, this is as you can see, the share alike. This is wrong actually. It should be just CC BY. But there are different CC licenses, so you can pick the ones that you need. The basic recommendation is make it as open as possible. So there's even a CC0, which means you can do with the content whatever you want. You don't even have to tell where it is from. CC BY means you can do with the content whatever you want. Just tell the people where you've got it from. Okay, and then you can also in your wiki make it easier for users to access your data. Semantic MediaWiki puts a link into the RDF representation of individual pages automatically. So if you look at the Semantic MediaWiki page and you look at the HTML representation, you will find that. You can create a RDF dump. There's a script that would create a single RDF dump of all your data of your installation. So that's a different thing that you could set up running every week or so. That people do not have to crawl the RDF of individual pages, but really get the complete RDF dump. You can indicate exporting capabilities on individual pages. We have several result formats like vCard format or iCalendar format or BibTeX format or KML format or whatever data you have. Semantic MediaWiki is very export friendly. So you can provide links on all kinds of pages to invite people to access your data and reuse it. And you can also provide export pages that would explain how can I export a list of all this and that I have on my wiki in CSV or in JSON format. How do I do that? So you can provide some guidance to your users. Linked data in SMW is a little bit more tricky, but that is what SMW really inherently was built to do. So we will talk about, I will talk about now how to reuse external vocabularies, most importantly, schema.org, how to add vocabulary definitions to the properties, but also the category pages is something that is not so frequently done, I guess. How to use page IDs of MediaWiki as unique identifiers, that's important, and how to also link to external identifiers. So we will talk about how to set up Semantic MediaWiki in a way to support linked open data. Imagine you want to have some information about a city, the city of Vienna. What you usually would do is you would create a page that is called Vienna, and this page can have properties, the number of inhabitants, where it is located in, the coordinates, Wiki Data ID, something like that. You are free to name those properties any way you want to have it in your wiki. Then Semantic MediaWiki assumes that if you don't declare a property, it is of type page, so that can be used immediately without doing anything. But usually you would want to declare your properties. So you would have in the property namespace, for example, property country, and you would say, this I want to have of type text because I don't want to have these red links. I will not have pages about the countries. The size, you say, this is of type number or whatever, and there are different types, state, URLs, whatever. The important one is, I think, when you want to link to other sources, is the external identifier data type that links to external resources. And you also can reuse external vocabularies. So the coordinates, you want to tell the world, basically, that your property coordinates is something that is imported from schema.geo, from the geo vocabulary of schema.org. So this we should do. And pages should usually be put into categories. So the page of Vienna, you would automatically, probably via template, put in the category of cities. And even in those city category page that automatically is there in the category namespace, you should have an import statement if you want to reuse schema.org. So we would say it's imported from schema city, because schema city is a vocabulary term that is there in schema.org. And this is an optional step because Semantic MediaWiki basically doesn't care if you do that or not. So it is a step that tends to be forgotten because you don't have to care about category pages basically in Semantic MediaWiki. But if you want to reuse vocabulary, you should do that. Okay, how are we going to do this? It's quite simple actually, because what you would do is you would need the rights to edit the MediaWiki namespace in your wiki, which is reserved to administrators, and you would just type, you just create a page MediaWiki namespace SMW import, and then the name of the vocabulary. So it could be SMW import FOV for the FOV vocabulary, or SMW import schema. And this is a simple wiki page that you can see here on the right. In this wiki page, you would just specify what vocabulary are you using. You're using schema.org because it's a very popular vocabulary, and you can have a link, and then you would specify what classes are there. For example, persons, projects would be classes in schema.org, and that would be categories in MediaWiki. And properties, for example, the property family name is of type text, the property description here, yeah, you basically just tell the name of the schema.org vocabulary, and then you have the definition of the data type in Semantic MediaWiki. Usually you would do that on the property namespace. You would say the property last name is of type text, but with this version, you would basically say it is imported from schema.geo, for example, for a geographic coordinate. So instead of on the property page having just the has type geographic coordinates, which is needed in order to specify that your property coordinates is of type geographic coordinate, instead of doing it there on the property page, you would just say imported from schema.geo, and Semantic MediaWiki would look into this MediaWiki SMW import schema page and look what the data type it should use, and there you have it. So it's just one way further away, but then you can reuse this external vocabulary, by the way, without having to change your property names. Your property name coordinates can be fine. It can be stay as coordinates, but you will in the RDF representation see that your property that is called coordinates is actually the same as schema.geo. The next SMW release will ship with more vocabularies. I think currently some FOF is there and some others. There are specified vocabularies for specified domains. For example, BIBO is for biographic ontology. So there are specified and there are general ones. The most important one is, I would say, schema.org. Why? And this has also downsides. Schema.org has been promoted by Google, I think also Microsoft these days. It's a collaborative community activity with the mission to create, maintain, and promote schemas for structured data on the internet, on web pages and beyond, which is a good thing. The not so good thing is that Google not only says we want to have a unique vocabulary for describing all sorts of resources on the internet, Google also specifies 3 technical ways on how to do this. 2 of them are not very favorable, I'd say, for wikis, because both RDFA and microdata want to put this in the HTML content, in the HTML representation of the page. So this is not a good way to deal with it in MediaWiki. And there's JSON LD. Well, while JSON LD is fine, SMW actually has something that is superior. That would be an RDF XML representation, right? So someone should talk to Google and ask them why the hell they would not consider this as equally be of value. So, and it's interesting, on schema.org they say we are suggesting, you know, these 3 formats, but there's also a validator, and the validator simply says if you don't have any of those formats, no items are detected. So if you put semanticmediawiki.org into the schema.org validator, it will say, I have no idea what this is, but there's schema.org is not used there. But we have this alternative type application, RDF XML. So that would point to the RDF representation of this page. And we could have schema.org there, schema.org vocabulary there, but the validator wouldn't recognize it. So that's not good. Fortunately, there is at least one solution I know of currently. It's the page properties extension. So the page properties extension, besides doing other interesting things, namely you can set values that are important for search engine optimization. You can even set semantic properties with this extension, and it will provide, if you have it activated, it will provide this JSON LD format that Google wants. So then, if you use the vocabulary schema.org and you have the page properties extension, then schema.org will say, I can find schema.org vocabulary in your wiki, so I will rank it higher, probably. I could not verify this, but I think this is part of the reason that, you know, Google search engine now understands better your content. So this is the main goal why we are doing this. So schema.org is, yeah. I personally think they should acknowledge RDF XML because it's a superior format actually that has been around for much longer, but it's just the way it is. So do you have to wait for the next Semantic MediaWiki version? No, you don't, because the current one is already shipped with some basic vocabularies like FOV. And if you go to semanticmediawiki.org, you can look at this MediaWiki SMW import schema page, and you can just copy it and use it in your wiki, so you don't have to wait for anything. And there are, I think, two ways of doing it. The one way will be this one, where really the complete vocabulary version 14 of schema.org is implemented, and you can just pick every vocabulary you want that you might have in your wiki. There's also another way you can delete everything you don't need, so that would make your individual import schema file much smaller, and there's a better overview of what you're actually using. So there's these two type of usage, I would say. But you can go ahead and reuse schema.org vocabulary, or in fact any other vocabulary that you come along. If your wiki is some special interest wiki, there might be ontologies around for that. Some vocabulary that all we in this room have never heard of, but it's out there. So you can basically, with the same mechanism, reuse these vocabularies. But be reminded, the only thing that you're doing, actually, there's a lot of effort you have to do. The only thing that changes really is the RDF representation. So in your wiki, nothing else is changed. Everything stays the same. The only thing is different that when you move the on your property, the has type definition, has type text to import from DC term spatial in this example, then the RDF representation would, instead of saying there is some kind of property we don't know, it's called location or something, or country, it would change this to DC terms spatial RDF data type, and then it would use this this namespace of DC terms, and it would say Italy. So, and this way, even if it's a German language wiki, the RDF representation would be better consumable by machines, actually. So that's what this is about. So this is the only thing really that happens if you reuse external vocabulary. Okay, something else is important. You also want people to link to your wiki, maybe. So there is this this mechanism of unique IDs, of page IDs. Every MediaWiki page, if you click on the bottom on toolbar and page information, you will see that, here is the page ID 34, because that's just the page ID that MediaWiki gives for every page that is created, and it should stay the same even if it's renamed or moved, as MediaWiki calls it. And you can display this with the magic word page ID. So if I would put page ID on the page of Vienna, it would display 34. And you can use that to say, this is my unique ID. So whenever you want to link to my pages, please, you can use the name Vienna, but I might change this name. So, but if you use 34 as ID, you will always find this page Vienna. So that's interesting. And how do you use that? Well, if you have Semantic MediaWiki, you can use your wiki domain and then use the special page, special URI resolver. That has an advantage, and then you put this cur ID, that's the MediaWiki ID, and 34, and this URI resolver knows content negotiation. So what is this? Content negotiation basically says if you are on the command line and you ask this page URI resolver cur ID 34, it will by default give you back what you would do in a browser. It would give you back the HTML representation, so your wiki page. But you can say, I want to have this page, but I want to have the RDF, and it would give you back the RDF. So if you want to crawl all the pages and have the RDF representation, you can do it with this. So the recommended way of doing it is define a link that would link to your special URI resolver with the ID and make this your unique ID for the pages. And if you have done it, as I have with a research wiki I did, it's about numismatic correspondence. So in Wiki Data, the community, you can suggest a new Wiki Data property, and this is the FinaWiki ID. And the community might say, okay, yeah, this is fair enough, or it might say, no, this is we don't want this, but they accepted this. And basically, there is an example use case. And actually, this is what I did wrong, because I just did the FINA and then index PHP cur ID, which is working, but it's not. It doesn't support content negotiation. So it's better to use the special URI resolver URL actually. Yeah, and this was done for the Vienna History Wiki and for the FINA Wiki. So for the FINA Wiki, for example, if you have this persons here, Josef Hilarius Eckel, is also in Wiki Data, and now Wiki Data can link back to the FINA Wiki and say this is the same person that is reported here with his correspondence, and so you allow others to link back to your data. To go one step beyond that, the question now is how can you get all your FINA IDs into Wikidata? There is this quick statements tool. I don't know if you're familiar with Wikidata, but if you there's a link below to the quick statements tool. Because of the flexibility of Semantic MediaWiki, you can use the template file format, specifying a template. The first link here shows you the actual template, how I do it in the Vienna History Wiki. That will basically give you the quick statement format that Wikidata specifies, because it's quite easy. It's just a text, and then you can copy paste what is in your text file to the quick statements tool. Again, here Semantic MediaWiki is actually advanced, because it could provide a CSV file for the quick statements version 2, but whenever I tried, the quick statements CSV import did not work. So I've never managed to do this. So I'm sticking to the quick statements version 1, which is a simple text file. This works. So I don't know why the CSV upload is not working, but this is the problem of Wikidata, not of Semantic MediaWiki. So this template file format is quite nice to get an export format that someone else defines for you, and you want to upload your data. Okay. Now we want to do something. Now other people are, we told other people how they should best link to our wiki, but we want, of course, also to link to external identifiers. As I've mentioned earlier, there's this external identifier data type. So you basically define a property. You can call it Wikidata ID. You can call it whatever you want, but let's, for this example, stick to Wikidata ID. And you would say, it is of type external identifier, and then there is a second option where you would put the URI. This would be Wikidata, and then you have this $1 that would hold the actual ID. And then you can see here, if you do it like this, here Pope Paul III has this Wikidata ID, and this would be used in your wiki, and you can click on it, and you would be redirected to Wikidata. And this is a good idea to do this, because you want to reference to other sources on the web, right? And there are many others. For example, in the research domain, there's this ORCID IDs for researchers. There's the GND file. It's a German national authority file for persons and places and whatever. There are so many other sources where you can link to. And as we have learned today, the first part is actually not the best one. The better one is to replace the has type external identifier with a schema.org vocabulary. So you would, instead of has type external identifier, put imported from schema same as, and you want to make sure that on the definition page for schema.org, you would say same as is of type external identifier, and you get the same result, but you would even have the schema same as vocabulary used to tell Google search engine that this is the same as some other identifier. Yeah, something that has been quite forgotten, I think, but when you think about these things, it pops up again as something that's actually a quite neat feature, is the so-called service links, and it works quite similar. To take this example further, you have the property Wiki Data ID, and you put on the property page the statement it provides service Wiki Data, and then you also, quite similarly to the import statement, you would put in the MediaWiki namespace a page called SMW service Wiki Data, because Wiki Data is just what you put here. And then you say Wiki Data, and you again do the same thing. But the difference is that in the browser interface, it would show this question mark. And here we have this not for the Wiki Data ID, but for coordinates. So you can say, whenever in the browser interface I have a coordinate, I want to offer my users the possibility of looking at this coordinate in OpenStreetMap or in Google Maps, or for example, in the Wiki Data ID, you would then have the Wiki Data here. So this is quite nice. The downside is it only works in the browsing interface, so special browse, or when you click in a toolbox in browse properties, but not in the Semantic MediaWiki fact box or somewhere else. So it would be nice if the service link idea, I like it, would be taken further somewhere. Okay, so what are some ideas for the future? I haven't talked yet about this aspect. There's a reconciliation topic, and I don't know if you know OpenRefine as open source tool that can consume data actually also from Semantic MediaWiki. For example, you can on the fly import RDF, JSON, or CSV from your Semantic MediaWiki instance into OpenRefine. It's a tool that you would install on your machine. And reconciliation means I want to match my ideas with Wikidata items, but this might not always be so easy, because in this example, in your wiki you have a Annette Kolb, and there is a Wikidata match with Kolb Annette, which is fine, but actually it's the third one that you want to match, because this is the right person. So you might not have noticed that the names are a little bit different, and this is a manual procedure, to get similar items, and you would choose what to match. Sometimes there's automated matching if it's clear, but sometimes there's disambiguation. So, and this is what this reconciliation does, and OpenRefine is just one open source software that implements this reconciliation API. And it's a fine tool, so you can select and then you can re-import the data via the data transfer extension, because from OpenRefine you would get a CSV file then with your cleared and cleaned data, and then you could re-import it in your Semantic MediaWiki. While this is working great in practice, so there's no problem with it, it's a little bit not the ideal workflow, right? To go to an external tool and to re-import pages. So one idea could be that we in Semantic MediaWiki would really use the reconciliation API and provide a user interface in Semantic MediaWiki for that. That would be a nice one. Also, one idea would be the reuse of service links. So I want to basically be able to in my template maybe use this idea of there is some service links. This is a special property. It's of type coordinates. Someone has provided 3 different mapping solutions that I can click on, and then it will show me this. This should not be too hard to implement. I think it's a nice idea. Another idea that is, I don't know, we could talk about this, is the Semantic MediaWiki property declaration is quite flexible. So maybe it could be used to automatically match to Wikidata properties, something like to assign to an SMW property country to P17, because P17 is country in Wikidata. So we could have a statement, something like imported from OWL equivalent class and then P17, or I don't know how to call it, imported from Wikidata P17. So that could, of course, also change the RDF output, but it doesn't do anything more than that, right? Importing vocabularies doesn't do anything more, but it could trigger more features, right? Because if you know this is the same thing, maybe we could think of pushing data to reusing other data from Wikidata in Semantic MediaWiki or whatever. So this is an open question, maybe, how we can better integrate Semantic MediaWiki, your own wiki with your own knowledge, and you want to not only point to Wikidata, or if you're lucky, Wikidata points back, but you really want to reuse vocabularies and reuse actual data from Wikidata. So I think this is one thing that we could talk about. Yeah, and pushing data to Wikidata is also currently a manual procedure. It is maybe also this can be doable inside of Semantic MediaWiki. Like, I have now my versions ready. We are interlinked with Wikidata. I click on, now submit, and then it will push to the quick statements tool or whatever. The data from my Semantic MediaWiki would be something nice. Okay, yeah, this is just some use cases where you can see how I've done these things. The Vienna History Wiki. There's a knowledge management platform in German. There's one English one that's a common assessment framework. It's a quality management tool for European institutions. And I've mentioned the FINA Wiki. So if you want to look into how the RDF looks there, you can do that. These are the sources. And if you have any questions, I will be happy to answer them. I cannot see the chat now, so someone else has to see if there is questions from the chat.
Well, Thomas Wolf is thanking you for pointing out the capabilities of page properties with respect to SEO.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, several years ago, I was lazy with search engine optimization simply because you had your data in MediaWiki. Google was very agnostic of it, and you would rank pretty well. But I think these times have gone, maybe because of schema.org. So they want you to do that, and we have to find a way to do that. And the only way I know currently is a page properties extension, which is interesting. So we might look into this because we want our wikis to be ranked in search engines and to be found. So yeah, thank you to Thomas for the page properties extension. Oh yeah, please come up.
Yeah, maybe a related question and also a never-ending discussion is using a human-friendly identifier, a short incremented identifier as the page ID, or using a UUID, which is the technical best solution, but the human unfriendly solution. So I was wondering, of course, talking about SEO, the human friendly has been, before embedding any linked data into the HTML text, that will be the best way, because if you don't have the tags, the keywords in your URL, then you will not be ranked high. So, and also we have this page ID, which is at least permanent in the wiki installation, even if you rename the page. But my question is, so we are, but my thought was, if you have multiple instances of a wiki and we create pages representing concepts, terms, and something like that, and we want to recombine them at some point in time, then have the ID collide, because it's basic incremented ideas. So we switch to UIDs.
Okay.
Of course, meaning in your page name it's a UID, you cannot do anything with this without that. You highly stick on the display label feature as a human. And also Google may say, it's a UID, what's that? And maybe my question is, what do you think? So you prefer the page ID as a permanent identifier to link data. Do you also consider UIDs? And what are your thoughts on that?
Okay. That's a good question. I think the trade-off between page ID and human readable page names is not really there, because I can offer both. So, for example, the example that I showed, I think you would actually you cannot see it here, but in the quick statements tool, when you then you would say this is the link to my page ID. That will stay the same, but the page name at the time is called this, and that can be stored in Wiki Data. So you can have both. You can offer the page name that you are actually using in the wiki. So another question would be, do you use actual human readable page names? You don't have to. In a wiki, you can have, some kind of UIDs actually without speaking page names. This is what I've never used, because my main consumers are people. Yeah. So there's one thing, and the UUIDs, I don't know. I mean, this is maybe Semantic MediaWiki should have something like that built in, where you would have an UUID. I actually don't really know. We had this discussion recently in the open data scene in Austria about the Austrian open data portal, whether or not we would prefer machine readable or human readable or UUIDs even. I think there is no right or wrong answer. It really depends on what your use case is and what your goal is. For example, we said in the Austrian data portal, data.gv.at, we said there is a machine readable and there is a unique machine readable and a human readable page automatically created. So why would we need UUIDs? We have this. We have our own URL, and if your IDs are unique, you have your own UUID. So you don't need an external service for that.
I mean, so you mean that it's not only the ID, it's not only the integer at the end, it's the whole theory. And because if you merge two wikis, then maybe the old domains will also the theory changes. Mm-hmm. And then you need maybe an ontology saying same as, or it gets transferred to something new. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's the same in ontology development. Using Protégé, you can click the settings, use label as, so label is the same as identifier. Yeah. Or please generate a UUID, but display the label. Okay. Yeah, I think that I'm not really happy with the UID solution, but I fear that we get really problems in the future if we really have large distributed systems and we reuse content and references. We losing track of IDs that collide.
Yeah, sure. I never had to merge wiki, so that's interesting.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thanks. Any more questions or comments? How do you set up? Do you do it differently? This might not be the gold standard that I'm presenting. It's just what I'm doing. Any other thoughts on that? Yes. Okay.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for the comprehensive talk, first of all. My question might sound a bit ignorant. That's because I'm not a developer. I'm just thinking about how you can use this technology. And I was wondering, when you're implementing several external vocabularies, like schema.org and maybe some specialized one, can you have the user choose in what kind of RDF representation he wants? So if you want to include the schema.org or the other external vocabulary?
Yeah, you can basically have many external vocabularies. The way I did it was actually not because of the search engine optimization, but because some IT department says we want to use schema.org for crawling the data. So that was a different thing. So I tried to find matches in schema.org, but you will find properties or classes that are not described there because schema.org cannot be comprehensive for everything. So I found missing items, and for those missing items, I try to find other vocabularies. So you're basically free to decide. You can say, I have the property last name. I'm going to use FOF last name. I have the property birth date, and I will take some Bibo birth date something. So you can basically mix it. It will be, I guess, recommended to stick to few vocabularies, but you can mix them, and you will hardly ever find a vocabulary that does everything for you. So schema.org is not at all complete. In the Vienna History Wiki, I think I was able to find 60% of vocabularies that I could use. So 40% are still missing, and some are obviously missing because it's the Vienna History Wiki and it's very specific. But some very general terms are missing. Where I was really wondering why is this not in schema.org. And then you can suggest new terms, and but it can take forever. I don't know how long until they get accepted. So schema.org is something that is evolving, as are other ontologies. I think schema.org has also incorporated several ontologies. So I think the FOF, even the FOF URL that was there doesn't exist anymore. So don't use FOF anymore because it's just broken. And I think the FOF vocabulary is integrated into schema.org, but FOF was a very basic one, like persons and their contacts and things like that. If you have very specialized content, you might want to look into specialized vocabularies, and you can decide, I want to have this special vocabulary because it is for my domain, and I want to use this purely, and maybe missing terms I will look for somewhere else. So you can basically decide that.
Thanks. And if you have one property that is described in two different ontologies?
Oh, that's a good question. I think you have to decide for one, because I don't think it. That's true, but I didn't actually try that out if that works. If you put on your property page two import statements, if that would. So. You would probably have to define a second property, and in Semantic MediaWiki, and tell it this is same as this. Then it would work probably.
This is called mapping, and mapping is messy. I have a question because in real life, I'm working in the medical domain.
Yeah.
We have also all kinds of ontologies, like SNOMED, like MESH, and then you can pick out one of the ontologies. But where you run into is that they are not ambiguous, or they're unambiguous. That means that you don't really know what's the definition of the data you are working with. And I think that this problem also run into where you're working with Wiki Data and Semantic MediaWiki. You can map on a technical layer all kinds of stuff, but the definition is lacking always. So you don't know whether your mapping is correct or your definitions are correct. Do you have any thoughts about this kind of controlled vocabulary stuff putting into Semantic MediaWiki combined with Wiki Data or Wikibase? Because
I think that's a nice subject for to discuss over lunch.
Yeah, it is. But Simon, do you want to say something?
maybe compare to that.
But come here, because people cannot hear you.
Bernhard, lunch is.
We have 3 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's technically it's true that it's just it's a technical mapping, okay? But so if just this mapping and you don't have any other information, you really rely on that. But also in reality, both terms on both sides of the mapping have also different additional properties. And I mean, in reality, you can not only compare the mapping but also the additional properties on both sides. And if there are conflicts, then you may label this mapping as critical. But if they are aligned, and if the more mappings you have, the more you can assume a good and a bad mapping if you are on a large knowledge graph. And of course, there will also always be some uncertainty, but I think the more mappings you have, the more
Messy
quality
it becomes.
I think maybe you need different tools, so it's not nothing a human can do. But if you think really of large knowledge graph, there may some errors. It's not exact, but then you can use some network algorithms to specify the amount of overlap, and then maybe put an expert on that to clarify this mapping.
Start with the expert and then
but
choose the nocturnal, but we have only 3 minutes. But we will discuss this in the lunch.
Okay, so one last thing I want to point out, because this is related, I guess. You should, when you do your property declarations in Semantic MediaWiki, you should make use of what is on the right side here, has a preferred property label and has property description, because these are built-in properties. You can use them. You don't have to, but I think they are useful, because then you can say, okay, I have a preferred property label in German, in English, and in Dutch. This is one nice aspect, and you can have property descriptions also in different languages. That would make it also easier for to describe your properties. Yeah. So, but this is only part of the answer here. So I'm happy to talk about this during lunch. And yeah, thank you. We will continue at
13:30.
1:30. We will continue at 1:30. Okay, thank you.